Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I will be demonstrating how to crochet the Tradewinds Shawl, which is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. Please go to the link in the description. There you will find both right and left-handed video tutorials, as well as a link to the written pattern, links to the other video tutorials I may mention here today, and links to all the supplies you need. For this pattern, I will be using Red Heart Soft. To make this shawl, I used 2 balls, and then I also used 1 braid of Caron and Pantone bamboo. I used the Green Meadows colorway. This one is slightly different, but you can use whichever one you like. Before you get started with the shawl, you will need to take this apart and wind it into small balls. Each color gets its own little ball. I do have a demonstration of that in my Yarn Love video that I made on this yarn earlier. So you can go to the link for that at the link in the description if necessary. You'll also, of course, need a crochet hook, a USK 6.5 millimeter. This one is by Furls. I also recommend using stitch markers, and of course, at the end, you will need a needle to weave in your ends and scissors as you go to cut your yarn. So let's go ahead and get started with this shawl. All right, now I just mentioned that you'll need to take apart this braid and wind them into balls. When you wind each of those balls, you'll need to decide which one is going to be color 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. When I made my Tradewinds shawl, I started with, I used the Green Meadow braid again, but sort of this darkest blue-green. I labeled that number 1, and then I just worked my way on up 2, 3, 4, and 5. But if you want to rearrange these or use them in a different order, you can label them whichever way you want. Just go ahead and label them because we'll need to use them as they're called for in the pattern so that we make sure we have enough of each color to do the various stripes. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the actual stitches. Now the basic instructions for the Tradewinds shawl are the same as for the Pixie Shawlette, which already has a video tutorial here on the Moogly YouTube channel and on mooglyblog.com. So right now I'm going to demonstrate how to get started with this one. Again, it starts the same way, but I also want to be able to demonstrate for you how I handle the color changes in this one, since the Pixie Shawlette was made with just 1 ball of a different yarn and a very different hook size and a very different weight. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to begin row 1 with a magic circle. I do have a separate tutorial for this linked on, again, linked on this blog post at the link in the description and here on the YouTube channel. But very quickly, I'm going to take the end of the yarn and wrap it around my non-hook finger here twice towards me. Then I am going to go ahead and insert my hook under both of those loops, pull the back one just right under it, and then I'm essentially going to yarn over and pull through like for a slip stitch, but I'm not going to count it as a stitch. This just locks my 2 rings here together. Then I am going to make a chainless starting double crochet in the ring. This is my favorite double crochet substitute. If you don't like it, again, I do have a video tutorial for it, so you can check it out if you don't know it, but if you don't like it, you can just substitute a chain 3 or whatever you like to do for that first double crochet of a row or round. So to make it, I'm just going to pull my hook up high here, put my finger on top of that loop, yarn over with that loop, go right into the ring, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over again, pull through 2, very carefully, there we go, and pull through those last 2 to finish the stitch. 1 and 2. There we go. So that will count as my first double crochet of row 1. Then I'm going to go back and make 2 double crochets in that ring again, making sure to go under both of those loops. So here is 1. There we go. And there's 2. And after I make this one, I'll be able to go ahead and pull my finger out of the ring. These stitches will hold it open and in place. And this is important. Normally when you're making a magic ring and you've finished all the stitches you make in it, you go ahead and pull that end to pull it closed. However, when we come back around to make that edging, we want to be able to work back into that ring. So rather than pulling it closed at this point, I'm going to pull up my loop a little bit here so I can put my hook down so it won't roll away. There we are. I'm going to take my stitch marker and I'm going to go ahead and put it right in that magic ring as well. I'm going to go ahead and capture both those ends. And then I'll probably pull it just a little bit closed so that it doesn't, hang open and get caught on anything or try and pull open all the way. But this will hold it open so that when I come back around to make the edging, I'll be able to work back into this space. So now I can go ahead and reinsert my hook. There we are, and that's it for row 1. We've got 3 double crochets. Let's start row 2. To begin row 2, we're going to turn, of course, first, and then we're going to start with a chainless starting double crochet / double crochet 2 together. Now, if you'd like to see me work this stitch, go ahead and go to the Pixie Shawlette pattern, but now I'm going to show you an easy alternative if you don't like using that stitch. Instead, what you can do is just chain 2 and then double crochet in the next stitch. So find that center stitch right there. There we are. Make a double crochet, and that chain 2 and double crochet will count as that first decrease. You're just going to count the top of that double crochet as the top of the first stitch there, like so. Then you make 3 double crochets in the very last stitch. So go ahead, whether that was the top of a chain 3 or however you wanted to work your first double crochet there, work into the top of that one now and make 3 more double crochets. So with that decrease and these 3 double crochets, row 2 will actually have 4 stitches, like so. And that's it for row 2, and we're ready for row 3. So we turn and make row 3, and again we could start with a chainless starting double crochet in this first stitch, or you could start with chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Then you would make 2 more double crochets right back in that first stitch. 1 and 2. Then, let's see, there we go. We need to double crochet in the next stitch. There we are. Then there, with 2 stitches left, we are going to work a decrease. So we double crochet 2 together in these last 2 stitches. So you may have noticed a pattern here, especially if you've already made the Pixie Shawlette, you've picked up on it here. We are increasing on this side. We've got 3 stitches on the ends here on this side, and we are decreasing on this side. What I like to do at this point is take another stitch marker and just go ahead and add it right to the side, anywhere in a past row here on the increase side. This way I know at a glance, if I get really far in the shawl, I don't have to stop and, count and look. I can see at a glance, oh, this is the increase side, this is the decrease side. Always helps me keep on track. So with that, we can begin row 4. Okay, so for row 4, it's going to be basically a repeat of row 2. Essentially, this is a row 2 repeat. So for row 4, we're going to start with a chainless starting double crochet 2 together, or again, we can do that chain 2, 1, 2, and skip that first stitch, double crochet in the next, and just call the top of this double crochet that decrease. Then we're going to double crochet across until 1 stitch remains. So however many stitches that would be, since we're here at the beginning of the pattern, it won't be too many. Just 2. There we are. And now we've got 1 stitch remaining, and I can see because of the stitch marker I'm on my increase side, so I'm going to go ahead and work 3 double crochets into that very last stitch. In this case, it's the top of a chain 3, since that's how we decided to start that previous row. So there's 1 and 2 and 3. Just wiggle it on in there. There we go. Like so. And then that should be the end of row 4. And we've got 6 stitches. Our decrease, 2 more, and then those 3 in the very last stitch. Up next is row 5. So row 4 was the first of our 2-row repeat. Row 5 will be the second one. Again, we could start with a chainless starting double crochet, or you could start with a chain 3, 2, 3, and then 2 more double crochets right back in that first stitch because we're on our increase side. So there is 1 and 2, like so. Then we simply double crochet across until 2 stitches remain. So 1 double crochet in each stitch until 2 stitches remain. Now as you get close, remember that that chain 2, if that's how you made it, does not count as a stitch, just that double crochet does. So we've got just 2 left, so we're going to go ahead and double crochet 2 together right there. So there's the first leg of that one, go into that second one right there, and work our decrease like so. Come on through, hook. It wants to get caught. There we go. So that's the end of row 5, and you should have 7 stitches. So as you may have also noticed, every row of this pattern will go up by 1 stitch. Although the mesh rows, of course, mess with that a little bit, but overall, it's always going up by 1 stitch. So rows 4 and 5 are our basic repeat. Increase on this side, decrease on that side. And that's how all our solid rows are made. So rows 6 and 7 would be exactly the same, just going up again by 1. You would end up netting 1 more stitch with each row. So after rows 6 and 7, you would go ahead and break color A. So I'm going to repeat these now, and then we'll get ready to add our Caron and Pantone colors. Okay, so after you have finished the first 7 rows, then it's time to break color A. In this case, this is the Red Heart Soft. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the yarn, leaving at least 6 inches so I can weave that tail in later. Then it's time to pull up our first color, our color B1. So whatever you decided you wanted to use first on the Caron and Pantone bamboo colorways. Now, since we're changing colors, we could finish off this stitch with the new color and then begin from there. But we have a lot of different options. It's however you like to join a new color. Personally, I like to go ahead and just pull that one through with that finished stitch and then use a standing join rather to begin the next row. But you can join with a slip stitch, however you like to do it. I will go ahead and demonstrate my favorite way now. Now, since we're beginning with a decrease row, you can see we've got our stitch marker over here. We're increasing, and so this is our decrease side. So since we're starting there, we're going to start with a decrease. So you could join and chain 2 and then double crochet in the next one if that's the way you've been doing it. Or if you're doing the chainless starting ones, you can do that in a standing way by holding on to the end of this stitch here, yarn over twice, go right in that first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, then yarn over again, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, then yarn over and pull through those 2 loops and the loop that you're still holding on to there with your hand. So that's another way to do that decrease. You can do it however you would like. After that, though, it's basically a row 4 repeat. We double crochet across until we get to that last stitch. Let's see, after I make this next one, I'm going to go ahead and drop that end. And then when in that last stitch, we'll work 3 double crochets. So I will see you at the end of row 8. All right, so essentially row 8 was a repeat of row 4. Decrease at the beginning, 3 at the end. The only difference is we've switched yarns to our Caron and Pantone yarn. So now we're ready for row 9. And this is going to be our mesh row. So we're going to start again with a chainless starting double crochet or a chain 3. So for the sake of time, let's go ahead and make a chain 3. So that counts as our first double crochet. Then we need to chain 1 for a chain 1 space. Oops, there we go. And then we're going to double crochet right back in that first stitch. Now, why do we do that? Here, let me finish the stitch here. There we go. You can see we are on our increase side. So normally we would have worked 3 double crochets right into that first stitch, or a chain 3 and 2 double crochets, however you like to do it. But we've taken out that middle one and replaced it with a chain 1. So now we continue on across this row by chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next. And that will be our repeat until we get to those last 2 stitches. So chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next. Just like so. Let's do that one more time together. There we are. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next. So like I say, just continue that all the way across until actually 3 stitches remain. Oh, and here we are. Because this is the beginning, we're already at our 3 stitches. So I said that repeat was chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next, and I did that. Then after you've done that, we chain 1 more, then we skip that one. So really there's those 2 stitches left here at the end, and those are going to be a decrease because this is our decrease side. So we go in the first one of those and stop with 2 loops left on the hook, yarn over, and because this was a standing stitch, I've got to enclose this little tail end here as part of that top V. So I'll go under that as well as the second half of it right here. Like so. Just treat it like it was the top of a normal stitch. We can weave that end in later. With 3 loops left on the hook, we yarn over and pull through all 3. Give Give that a little tug down. Like I say, when we weave that in, we can make sure it looks good. And that is our basic mesh row. So now we can begin row 10. Row 10, we are going to chainless starting double crochet 2 together because it's a decrease side, or do the chain 2 and double crochet. So let's do a chain 2 and then double crochet. And that double crochet is going to go right in that chain 1 space, because remember, this was a decrease right here. It only counts as 1 stitch. So we've got our chain 2, then we go right in that chain 1 space. And now we've got our new decrease right there. After that, we're just going to double crochet in each stitch and each chain space until we get to the end. So right in that stitch, and then right in that chain space. Right in the next stitch. Let's see, there we go. And then right in that chain space. All the way until we get to that very last stitch. The one that's easiest to miss is that chain 1 space right in between the 2 stitches there, worked in the first stitch. So we're almost there, so we want to make sure to work in this one right here. And then again, don't miss this chain 1 space hanging out right there before that last stitch. So then in that last stitch, whether it is a chainless starting double crochet or however you like to do it, top of the chain 3, that's where we'll put our 3 double crochets, because we're back on our increase side. Now obviously we have left that little stitch marker behind quite a ways, so as you work you can definitely pull that up, move it up along the side here so you can always see it for easy reference. So there's 2, and there is our 3rd one. And with that, we are done with our color B1 for this stripe. So we go ahead and put that down. We pull up our scissors and break that yarn again. Again, just leave about 6 inches so you can weave in that end later. And then we are ready to go back to our color A. Now at this point, you've made basically all the rows of this pattern. We come back in with color A, and then we just repeat row 9 again. We're basically just working back and forth in those solid colors. And then when we get to the next section of stripes for color B2, we're going to switch to that. Basically, you just keep going through rows 4 through 13, and 11, 12, and 13 are just more solid rows of color A. 4 through 13 7 times, and you'll cycle through colors B2, B3, B4, B5, then B4, then B3, and then end on a row 5 repeat before we don't do quite as many rows of solid in between the mesh. Now I know that sounds confusing, but in the written pattern, like I say, you've already made all these rows. It's just repeats with different colors. So let's go ahead and take another look at the finished shawl. Okay, so let's walk through the finished shawl all the way. We've got our first 7 rows here, and then 8, 9, and 10 in our B1. Then, like I said, 11, 12, and 13 are exactly the same as, it's just rows 5, 4, 5, essentially, back and forth in rows. And then we start over again with row 4. So I've got our row 4 and 5 repeats, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we do another mesh section. This would be color B2. So we just keep working those 4 and 5 row repeats with those mesh sections in between. So we go, and I want to walk through the color changes here. We've got B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, and this is why this is important, because as these rows grow, you'll use more and more of this yarn, and we only have a certain amount, so that's why it's important to keep this order to make sure you have enough for each of these rows as they grow. So after B5, you'll go back to B4, and then B3, and then this is where things do change just a little bit. We're just not going to do as many repeats of the color A in between these stripes. So again, we can refer to the written pattern. It's just the same rows over and over again. It's just a matter of how many you work in between each of those color stripes. So you work your way back down after B3, then you'll know to have a few less repeats before you do B2, just a couple repeats here before we finish off again with B1, which is of course the one we started off here at the beginning. And since this is the longest colored stripe, it needs to be paired with the shortest. So you can kind of see why we've got those labeled, and we need to keep that order. But of course, you can choose to ball those up in whatever order you like. Okay, so the only thing left is the edging. Now, if you follow the pattern as written, there are 95 rows total, and you will end on a color A repeat just like so, with ending on the decrease side, beginning on the increase side. So for edging row 1, you are just going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn to work back the other direction here. And we're going to single crochet in each stitch across until the last stitch of the row. So simply single crochet on across your last row. All right, so I have 1 stitch left remaining here. So what I want to do is work a single crochet, just like the other ones. There we are, then a chain 1, and then another single crochet right back in that last stitch. And this will help bring us around the corner, so now we can work along this edge of our shawl. So what we want to do along the edge here is chain 2, 1, 2, and then single crochet in the top of the next row. So don't work into the side necessarily of this row, and because we worked into this top of this one, we're going to skip this one. Just jump right on down here and work a single crochet right into the side of that top of that first row, right where that stitch is joined. Now, if I had woven in these ends properly, there we go. That stitch would be a lot tighter. It wouldn't be all gappy like that. But that is how we're going to work down the side. Essentially, chain 2, oops, get a grip on my hook here. There we go. Skip that side of the row, jump down here to the top of that next stitch there, right along the side. Now, I really like this one. It gives just a really slightly different look. I think it gives it a really nice and even look. You don't have to worry about trying to decide whether or not you want to split those stitches or how you want to do it. You're working into a hole that's kind of ready and waiting for you right there. So it just makes it a little bit smoother, I think, way to work along an edge, especially one like this, which has a little bit of a curve to it. So we're just going to continue doing this right along the side. If you prefer a different edging method, of course, you can use your preferred one, but this is what I used for this pattern. Pull up a little bit more yarn there. There we go. And just keep working on down. Okay, so I did the chain 2 and single crochet right along that edge. I did go ahead and pull out that stitch marker, get it out of the way. But this brings us back down to the point, and this is where you're going to be happy you had that stitch marker in your magic circle. We want to work back in the magic circle. You can see I had a chain 2 in the row above here at the top of that row. But now I'm just going to go right into that magic circle. And again, I'm going to try and work over both of those tails because I do want to pull this closed when I'm done. And here I will work a single crochet. I'm going right into that magic circle ring again. So there's a single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet right in that magic circle. So with that, then we can go ahead and take that stitch marker out, and then we'll be able to pull that magic ring, or magic circle rather, completely closed. So that'll be nice and closed up now for the rest of the pattern. Then we're just going to continue to work the same way up along the other side here with a chain 2. Skip that first row, work into that top where the 2 rows meet, that sort of stitch into the top of the row there, and just chain 2 and work into the top of the next row all the way around this other curve until we get back to the beginning. Okay, so after you've worked up that final side of the shawl and we've made that last chain 2, we're going to go ahead and single crochet into the same stitch that the first stitch of this round was worked into. That first single crochet, we want to go right back in that stitch with another single crochet and then chain 1, and then we can join to that first single crochet made. So now we've got our corner made, our little chain 1 corner made right there too. So then we're ready to begin edging round 2. We're going to start with a chain 1, and then we are going to single crochet and chain 1 in each stitch around. So in the next stitch, you single crochet and chain 1. Next stitch, single crochet, chain 1. So even though we're chaining 1, we're not skipping anything. This creates just a little bit of texture here right along the edge. So single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, oops, there we are, chain 1. So you can see it just gives us not quite a scallop, but a really neat looking edge with just a little bit more interest and texture to it. So I'm going to keep doing that here until I get to the corner so I can show you how we handle those as well as the sides. Okay, so when you get to that chain 1 corner space, we are going to go into that chain 1 and work a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1. Then it's time to work along the sides, and we'll handle these both the same way, whether it's the increase side or the decrease side. When you come to a single crochet, just work a single crochet and chain 1. Then in the chain 2 space, I've got an end sort of peeking through there. Get out of my way, end. There we go. When we get to that chain 2 space, we're going to do the same thing. Chain 1, or excuse me, single crochet and chain 1. Just once, though, in that chain 2 space. Then we go to the next stitch, single crochet and chain 1. Then in the chain 2 space, single crochet and chain 1. So we're just going to do that all the way around. Now, because we've got those 2 more points there, remember the one where we worked into the beginning point, that magic circle, and then of course at the other end here where we started, then we will treat those the same way we did this one over here, where we work a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1. Otherwise, just work in each stitch and in each chain space with a single crochet and chain 1 all the way around. Then when you get to the end, you can join right back there, and it'll be all set with your Tradewinds shawl. And that's how to crochet the Tradewinds shawl. Again, please go to the link in the description. There you will find both right and left-handed video tutorials, as well as video tutorials for the magic circle and the, what else did I use? The chainless starting double crochet, everything else referred to in this video, as well as the yarn and the written pattern. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video answered any questions you had about this pattern. If it didn't, if you've got more questions, please let me know in the comments. I'm always happy to try and help. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please do subscribe to the Moogly YouTube channel. It really helps us out. Have a great day, everybody.